Before his sad death, Randy Meisner, who sang the emotional lead on Take It to the Limit, talked about shocking problems within the Eagles. What went wrong with one of the best rock bands ever? Were Randy's success and problems with his family too much for him to handle? Fans were devastated by what he said. Did Randy leave because of problems inside and one event that stuck with him? The truth shows a complicated and painful picture. The answers show a lot of tension and sorrow. How friendship and talent created a legend. The Eagles weren't always like that. They were just friends who had an idea. Different people came with different ideas, but Randy Meisner's stood out. His smooth bass lines and great singing not only went with their sound, they made it what it was. People all over the world found it new and interesting because it mixed rock, country, and folk styles. In their early years, they did well because they all had the same drive and skill. People thought the band could do anything once they were known. They could only think about songs like Take It Easy for years. A lot of other teams looked up to the Eagles, not just because they scored runs. It's clear that Randy had something to do with this. With songs like Take It to the Limit and his bass lines, the band became popular. Not many other bands could match their sound. He did great things right away, and people will remember them for a long time. But being happy didn't come for free. Everyone was getting tired from traveling all the time, recording songs all the time, and making new hits. The band's close ties began to weaken because of the stress. Fame brought more than just praise. Also, there were strict rules, due dates, and a full plan that didn't leave much time for anything else. In order to meet the needs of both his job and his family, Randy had to work hard. Even though things were going badly, Randy stood out. People liked him because he could act in ways that showed how he felt. Being able to hit high notes in songs like Take It to the Limit was also about getting to know the people who were listening to them better. That's what made Randy unique. The music was more than just heard. It was felt. The Eagles did very well in the music business, in part because of that link. They worked hard to keep their relationship problems from getting worse, but they did. The pressures of fame tested them as individuals and as a group. When some friends began making music together, it was a test of their creativity, pride, and determination to keep up the good work. Randy had a hard time doing everything that was asked of him. In those early years, Randy's work helped the Eagles get on the path to becoming famously successful. His voice, skill, and hard work helped them do really well. The band would have even more problems as they got better, though. Randy could feel the stress as his dream quickly turned into a test of his strength. After that, things were different. They had a great time and did well when they first got together, but soon they'd have trouble that would make the story different. We should talk about what came next and how things changed. Knoxville tensions changed the Eagles forever. In 1977, Randy Meisner had an event at a show in Knoxville, Tennessee, that would change his life. Take It to the Limit, one of the band's most popular songs, was meant to be sung by him and be the best part of their shows. But Randy wasn't in the right frame of mind to act. He was sick and stressed, so it was hard for him to hit the high notes that the song required. For many artists, this kind of situation is already hard enough, but for Randy, it was even harder. The band needed him to do well because the crowd was expecting a great show. Randy said no to singing the song that night, which made Glenn Frey very angry. Frey, who is known for being strong-willed and leading the band, didn't take Randy's choice lightly. As Glenn pushed for the show and Randy stuck to his guns, their disagreement reached a boiling point. The fight was about more than just one song. It showed how far apart the band was becoming. Instead of being sick, Randy was upset about feeling ignored and alone. There was no gap where this event took place. Band fights had been getting worse for years at this point. As the Eagles rose to new heights of fame, their relationships began to change. From a group of equals with a shared goal, it turned into a fight over control and attention. Glenn Frey and Don Henley had become the most important people in the band, often making decisions about music and management. Randy felt like he wasn't getting enough help and favor because of this relationship. The Knoxville event turned out to be a sign of bigger problems. It wasn't just a one-night fight. It was a turning point that showed the cracks in their relationships. Randy was feeling more and more pressure to live up to the band's high standards, even though his health or emotions were making it hard for him. There was a lot of stress in his life, and singing "Take It to the Limit" was a moment that made him understand it. The way Randy sees things adds another level of depth to the story. For him, the need to succeed wasn't just professional, it was also a bit personal. His huge singing range was well known, which is why "Take It to the Limit" was written to show off his talent. But being aware of that made me want to always do my best. It felt like he had failed not only the band, but also himself when he didn't meet those ideals. The stress became too much to handle, and the fact that his friends didn't care made things even worse. Aside from the event in Knoxville, Randy had to deal with the constant stress of playing with one of the world's most famous bands. The constant moving meant that there wasn't much time for rest or recovery. Very quickly, the Eagles became well known, and with that fame came the duty to keep it up. Randy had to deal with the emotional stress of living up to the band's image while also dealing with the physical strain of playing every night. The event in Knoxville was just one example of how these requests could get out of hand. Randy's fans thought that when he left the Eagles, it was the end of an era. Their early success was helped a lot by his singing and bass lines, which can be heard in songs like "Take It to the Limit." But for Randy, leaving the band wasn't just about stepping away from fame. It was about putting his health first and getting away from a toxic atmosphere. The problems that the Knoxville event showed the Eagles were bigger than just music. A part of their story was formed by the demands of fame, the fight for power, and the relationships between band members. For Randy, this event was not only a turning point, but also a sign of the bigger problems that were affecting the band's future. Let's look into how these disagreements affected what Randy did next and what he left behind. Randy Meisner's struggles. Randy Meisner had to deal with the pressures of fame in addition to his musical journey with the Eagles. His personal life and the constant duties of being in one of the biggest bands in the world became hard for him to handle. The Eagles had back-to-back trips, recording sessions, and media duties that left them with little time for anything else. Randy felt stressed out because of this, and it hurt his health and relationships. There are two sides to fame. On the one hand, it didn't make sense for Randy to have so much success and respect. On the other hand, his domestic life took a hit. Being on the road kept him away from home for long periods of time, which made it hard to stay close to his family. He was stressed out because he had to be at the top of his game all the time. He didn't have time to focus on his own needs or the needs of his family. He began to put a lot of weight on this difference over time. Randy had a lot of health problems and worry, on top of being famous and taking care of his family. According to many of his fans, it got harder for him to act live, which many saw as a natural part of his gift. He had a hard time enjoying playing live because he was anxious. His stress is already high, and the pressure to give perfect shows every night makes it even worse. Even songs like "Take It to the Limit," which showed off his amazing singing range, began to make him anxious instead of proud. Randy's physical health was also starting to get worse. His body got tired from all the travels and high-energy speeches he gave. He got sick and tired more often, which made it hard for him to keep up with the band's busy routine. These fights with their physical and mental health set off a loop that was very hard to break. His mind and body were telling him to stop, but the more he fought, the more pressure he felt to keep going. As these problems grew, Randy made the hard decision to leave the Eagles. He didn't just decide this on the spot. Even though joining the band was a dream come true, it was too bad for his health. He knew that staying with the Eagles would hurt his health, happiness, and peace of mind. He made a brave decision by putting his health ahead of the band's success, even though it meant quitting a job that had earned him a lot of respect. The way the band reacted when Randy quit showed how much trouble was getting between its members. Some saw his desire to leave as a disruption to the group's flow, but others saw it for what it was. This breakup only brought to light the tense relationships that had been building up for years. Randy chose to leave the Eagles for personal and professional reasons. He closed one chapter and began a new one. The hard times Randy Meisner went through are a sobering lesson of how fame can hurt even the smartest people. He didn't just want to leave success behind when he broke up with the Eagles. He also wanted to put his health and happiness ahead of the expectations of fame. This choice not only helped to shape his legacy, but it also taught us how important it is to put our health first. Randy's leaving meant a big change for both him and the Eagles. It changed the way the band worked together and how they became famous. Let's look into how Randy's problems and actions still affect his legacy and how people see him now, the timeless legacy of Randy Meisner. Randy Meisner left behind a tradition of great musicianship, honest music, and skills that helped make one of the best rock bands of all time. Randy was one of the original members of the Eagles and helped shape their sound and help them become famous all over the world. His unique voice and bass-playing style gave the band a depth and flexibility that set them apart from others. Randy's job wasn't just to play an instrument, it was also to make events that people would never forget. Randy's most important work was the hit song "Take It to the Limit." Because of its catchy tune and Randy's amazing singing, this song became one of the Eagles' most beloved hits. People were enthralled by his ability to show pure emotion in the song. It became an important part of their live shows, and for many of their fans, it's still a moment in the band's past. Besides this song, Randy's bass lines and harmonies made the Eagles' early albums more interesting, which solidified their place in music history. Randy left the Eagles and started a solo career so that he could keep making music on his own time. When Randy quit a famous band, it was a big change, but he showed that his love of music would never go away. His work as a single artist showed that he could write songs that people really connected with, even when they weren't backed by a big group. His solo work wasn't as successful as his time with the Eagles, but it showed how talented and determined he was as an artist. Randy's time as a solo act wasn't always easy. The music business is known for being tough, so it wasn't easy to build a great solo career after being in such a well-known band. Still, Randy stayed committed to his job and kept writing, performing, and talking to his fans. Even if it didn't do as well on the charts, his music stayed true to who he was, and that's what his fans loved most about it. People who kept up with Randy's work felt a strong connection to him. People who heard him were forever changed by how sensitive and honest he was in his work. Supporters often talk about how his music kept them going or helped them get through hard times. "Take It to the Limit" is more than just a song. For many, it's a lesson of how important it is to keep going even when things get hard. After Randy's death, friends, fellow musicians, and people in the music business paid tribute to him. A lot of people told stories on social media about how his songs had changed their lives. Others thought about what he did for the Eagles and how his skill influenced a whole group of rock musicians. Randy clearly left a mark on the hearts of everyone who loved his music that went beyond the notes he played. Randy Meisner left behind a tradition of connecting with people deeply and having an ongoing effect. His work with the Eagles helped make them one of the most popular bands ever, and his solo career showed how determined he was and how much he loved music. Randy's fans will always remember him as a voice that made the world hear both beautiful and sad things. His story tells us that music can be uplifting, healing, and a way to bring people together. When you think about Randy's impact, it's clear that his work with the Eagles and on his own will be remembered for a long time, on the records and in the thoughts and memories of the people whose art he touched. Let's look at the Eagles' current road and how Randy's influence still shapes their story. The Eagles today and unresolved tensions. The Eagles are one of the most famous rock bands of all time, and they are now on their last tour. When Randy Meisner was in the band, things were very different from how they are now. Even though Glenn Frey's death in 2016 was a big change, the band has kept playing with a mix of old and new players, including Deacon Frey, Frey's son. Their ability to draw fans and sell out stadiums shows that their music is timeless. Many people think of the Eagles as the music that defined an age. But as the band plays shows, some people wonder if the problems caused by Randy's leaving were ever really fixed. There has been a lot of talk for a long time about Randy's relationship with his ex-bandmates, especially Glenn Frey and Don Henley. There were times when they showed respect and got back together, like when Randy played at the Eagles' entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. But some fans aren't sure if they really got back together. These unsolved problems give Randy's story a skewed tone and make it hard to see what he added to the band's history. The fact that Randy and the Eagles haven't come to an agreement shows us how complicated relationships can become when people are under a lot of stress. People who are close to each other can't handle the stress of the music business, fame, and success. Randy's problems with his health, anxiety, and job pressure made these problems worse. He quit the band to take care of his health, but it made people wonder what might have happened if things had been different. By thinking about Randy's story, we can learn more about how important it is for all relationships to have open communication, understanding, and balance. There were different personalities and a lot of pressure to keep up the Eagles' success, but they also had a shared goal. Randy's story shows how hard it is to balance personal and professional obligations, and how problems that aren't solved can have long-lasting effects. Randy being one of them, the Eagles are on their last tour, which means that their history will end as well. His work is still a big part of the band's early success, and songs like Take It to the Limit still have a lot of people talking to them. It's clear that he had an effect on the Eagles' music and on the genre as a whole, even though his time with the band was not always smooth. The trip Randy Meisner takes with the Eagles and the problems they still have with each other are moving examples of how complicated relationships can be. His story shows how music can move people and bring them together, even though it also shows the problems that come with being successful. As Eagles fans honor the band's history, they also remember Randy's role in making sure that his voice and achievements are never lost. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Click on the next video popping up on your screen to move into more exciting content. See you there.